Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the brand new Remette Knives Premium Rhino. If y'all recall, I've had both of the budget versions of the Rhino. This is the one that came out first with the front flipper, thumb studs, and button lock. However, the first iterations had that detent system in there to where it was hard to close the knife. It wasn't like a fall shut knife because of it. They remedied that and it was good to go. 14C 28N on here. You have this nice pop of color with those blue pivot collars. Comfortable knife, and it performed really well for me. Then they dropped this budget version with the G10 scales. It has the thumb studs and it has the flipper, and the action on this thing is remarkable. This one's in D2 steel and the price reflects that. One thing that the D2 one took care of that this one didn't is they showed some lefty love there. The action out of box on this one was like that. Ridiculously smooth. They also had the D2 one in a non-coated, as well as the 14C came non-coated as well. I like those so much. Whenever they ask me if I want to check out a little bit more premium version, of course I say yes. So this one comes in at 7.32 inches overall. It has a 3.04 inch drop point blade, and it has their pearlescent finish, which I think is a very fine bead blasted finish. Your blade steel is M390, and usually any type of blasted finishes I don't like. However, after testing this Remette WD-107 with the same finish on it, it's a very slick finish. I found that it aided in cutting those more dense objects that cause friction. It just passes through a lot better. Of course, we'll test that out in just a second. And I've yet to have any corrosion problems with the pearlescent finish. And I think that's because before they do this finish, I think they do a lot more finishing work before that, so you don't have a bunch of pitting underneath there. You know, a lot of times they'll put a bead blasted finish to hide a poor blade finish underneath it. You do have a little bit of jimping there, but it is kind of back. Not something that bothers me any. I call it moderate traction. You got the little scoop right there to rest the thumb to get a little bit more pressure behind your cuts, or you can just hold it in the hammer grip. You have a nice point there for piercing. You have blade windows on both sides. I think they're just mainly for aesthetics. Your Rockwell hardness on your M390 steel ranges from 59 to 61. Now this is how you do a sharpening choil right here. You're gonna have all the way to right there before you have to worry about it. That is the life of this knife. I mean, look at all that sharpening. And not to mention, if you look right here, hopefully it's focusing on that because I'm pointing at it. You got a nice thin grind there. It's a flat grind that comes down to around 17 thousandths behind the edge. That paired with the pearlescent finish should allow it to slice very well. Let's find out. Yeah, great edge out of box. And man, is this thing slicing well. This one has good edge geometry, or good blade geometry. So I knew if it came sharp, it probably would slice really well. I wish I could feel how well it's slicing. You got enough usable blade length to get a good bit done. Now you do have a pretty high tip, so you got a little bit more belly than I usually like, but it's still slicing very well. And at this point, I've tested quite a few Remette knives, and so far I haven't had any that did not perform well. You know, that could always be a fluke, but so far so good. And like I said, you got enough usable edge to get a good bit done. Now, the flat spot they have on the front part of this handle, that's the sweet spot for me in the hammer grip. That you can see the edge is nice and crisp. I'm making curls very easily, and whenever I start to increase pressure, it was comfortable. I mean, about as comfortable as flat scales can be, and you know, I'm pushing pretty darn hard in it. And here, right when I get to the 1/2 inch sisal rope, you can see how it's just popping the sisal rope absolutely effortlessly. That extra belly is gonna make this a lot easier. And sorry, I'm losing my voice. I don't know, maybe I did too many videos in one day, but my voice is starting to go out, so I'm trying my hardest to get through this. But yeah, it was going through this rather quickly. You know, It's one thing to have bite, but it's another thing to have like a lasting edge. And this one never felt like it slowed down at all. I even cut more than I normally cut with this one because it was cutting so well. And like I said, this is one place where the extra belly is going to shine. Now, I'd still prefer it to be lower, but you know, you're going to have things like this that are going to excel more. Like say that if I had a lower tip on the drop point, just because the extra belly makes it a lot easier. And so far, so good. Wanted to show y'all, even with all that sisal rope, it's still able to pop still able to pop paracord, and that means the edge has to be pretty darn sharp to do that. Anytime you do like a drag cut, though, you're gonna have to use that belly because you almost have to come up 90 degrees to use the tip. Now I'm out of denim right now, so I added extra tubing, and I'm cutting extra tubing just to give that edge a little bit more of a workout. And I thought it did a fantastic job once again from Remette. Let's check that edge out. It still feels good, but you know, that's deceiving sometimes. It's got one hang up. Let me try that again. Might be my fault. It might be my fault. One more time. I mean, if it does have a hang up, then yeah, I think it's got one small hang up. Let's see. Can I feel it? I'm trying to feel for any roughness on that edge. If you run your fingernail like that, you'll feel bumps, and I do feel one right here. And to me, that's awesome. It means I could hit it up on my strop and bring back majority of that edge. All right, let's touch on the ergos real quick. I like how they left this flat spot right there so I can choke up all the way to that edge if I'd like. Or if I want to sit back a little bit further, I can still do that. I can get 4 fingers back here, but my fingers landing on this portion right here, it's not terrible. They did somewhat round over those tips. So I can, I can comfortably do this. I wouldn't want to do it for a long period of time, but I can. Majority of all the cutting I did, though, I sat up here because this is nice and wide, fills out the hand nicely. I could get a lot of force behind my cut, and I can control that edge a lot better. Not to mention, I have a lot more handle, and I'm sitting in front of that when I'm choked up right here. If you're in the saber grip, you got this little scoop if you want. If you need to push down, you can. I can get all the way to that tip. I can make a nice felt cut that way. This reverse grip, I'm going to call it okay. It's not terrible, but I will say my finger is sitting on top of that button when I'm squeezing it like this. Let's see. It hasn't disengaged it, but you definitely need to be careful with that. The reverse gas station knife fight grip, you do have somewhat, you could sit your finger on this flat spot if you wanted to, but once again, you got to watch out for the button lock. The action out of box on this button lock, ridiculously smooth. It is riding on K-tronic bearings. Now, they removed the front flipper tab, which I'm good with because I hate front flippers. I could still kind of do it. Let's see if I can do it. I could kind of do it. I'm sure y'all pros at it could, but for me, thumb studs are perfect. They got the right amount of texture on those thumb studs. Those little things are grippy. They're right on that borderline. If they were any more grippy, they'd be uncomfortable. But for me, I find them to be perfect. I can reverse flick off thumb studs really well. If I want to, I can kind of stick my finger in that blade window, but I find it to be much easier just to use those thumb studs. If I wanted to slow roll it, say if the detail was too strong from that, then I could grab that blade window. But I can do all the necessary stuff with thumb studs. Now, I guess if I want to do a drop down, I could grab that window, but you definitely need to be careful. So very smooth, very snappy action. Close it up, take a look at the handle area. So you have a titanium bolster, titanium pivot collar for a pop of color. You have this shred carbon fiber. It's just a plain shred carbon fiber on the cover right here. You can also get it with that copper foiled carbon fiber. That's probably my favorite that they do. But I don't mind this one either. They got a recess spot for that button so you don't accidentally disengage it. You got nice crisp Torx T8 hardware everywhere. You even have a T8 Torx on your pocket clip. Excellent job. You also have a titanium backspacer with a hidden lanyard pin. Looks like the blade is perfectly centered. Now, they were able to keep the price down on this one a little bit, coming in at 169 bucks. And the reason for that is because this tie and carbon fiber is sitting on top of stainless steel liners. I was hoping that was going to be titanium, but I figured it wasn't. They would have just set up this bolster. They would have made it an integral bolster as the frame. But, yeah, magnetic there. However, I don't find it to be that big of a deal because this is not a super heavy knife. Besides the stainless steel liners, another thing that I was kind of bummed to see is that you have dual thumb studs and you can easily access them on the left side and you can disengage that button lock on the left side. However, the mill tie pocket clip is tip up, right hand carry only, unfortunately. You know, after they did this one, this was the last one they did before the premium, I'm pretty sure. I thought they would have started doing that, especially since this clip could easily be swapped over. It's not like the clip following a form or anything. You have good fitment on those carbon fiber bolsters. No huge gaps anywhere. No high spots. I'm closing my eyes. I can't feel any of the transition there. Let's see if I see any voids in the carbon fiber. Now, this carbon fiber is usually notorious for getting voids. Let's see maybe a couple here. Y'all see any? It's very hard for me to see them. Maybe some there. It's just the nature of this how this carbon fiber is all spaced out like that. But nothing that bothers me at all. That mill tie pocket clip. Got decent spring. You want this to be a little tighter because it is on a smooth surface. And nice crisp Torx hardware. And there's a close-up shot of the texture on those thumb studs. Like I said, in my opinion, it's perfect. There's your jimping up top. And here's a shot of that pearlescent finish. Up close, it almost, whenever you have the macro on, because of the bead blasting, gives it almost like an orange peel texture, which is a scary thing because that's usually what causes pitting. Microscopic pits in the blade. However, like I said, you can't see any striations from the finishing underneath, so I've yet to have an issue with it. It is a fingerprint magnet though. And there's a macro of that tip. This knife came remarkably sharp. All right, how's the lockup on this? Now, there is no movement in any direction, so I'm guessing those stainless steel liners are giving it some extra rigidity. Now, let's test it real quick. I know everybody wants to see this. Dun, 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 dun. I've spine whacked the heck out of some of these Remette knives. Maybe the hardest of any of the knives I've ever spine whacked. They do a great job. Whoever's their OEM, they do a great job of their geometry on these button locks, that plunger geometry. No stick on this one, even after I was doing the stupidity spine whack. Still nice and smooth. Now, stick's pretty common with a button lock. I mean, every ProTech Malibu I've ever had stick. You know, that's just the nature of the beast. If you get a little lube on that, it'll cause stick. Now, for some quick size comparisons, as you can see, it's a little smaller than the Remette WD-107, and it's the same size as the 14C version. As you can see, it's in the middle of the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, but I'd say it's much more similar in overall length to the Rat 2. It's a good bit smaller than the Spyderco PM2, and it's almost identical in length to the Spyderco Para 3. And lastly, it's just a hair shorter than the Benchmade Bug Out, and it's very similar in overall length to the Kubi Royal. Now, being that absolutely no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? There's no lefty love here, and I would have loved to see these liners be stainless steel, but then the price would have went up a little bit, and you know, I think the price is good where it's at. I think the weight's fine. If you look in there, they hogged off as much material as they possibly could on that stainless, and it goes all the way to the carbon fiber. It helped bringing the weight down on this one. Comes in at 4.1 ounces, and I thought it carried very, very well. And as you can see, it's perfectly balanced in that choil area, so it's going to feel a lot lighter than that, and it's going to be very nimble in hand. I would have much preferred a raw stonewash finish here, or even the satin like they've done before. However, until I have any kind of issues with corrosion. This is definitely not a deal breaker for me because it actually aids in its slicing ability. It reduces friction, at least on this one it did. But if none of those things I talked about were deal breakers for you, then yes, I can easily recommend this one. Comes in at $169. You got M390, carbon fiber, titanium, beautiful action, good performer. It's comfortable. I think it looks nice. And all in all, it's a great knife. So if this one does it for you and you're already planning on buying it and you want to help support the channel, you could always use my links. That helps me pay for all those testing materials and other things for the channel. If not, no sweat at all. All right, guys and girls, hope every one of y'all is having a fantastic day today. My voice is going out, so we're going to end it here. And remember, keep those blades sharp. Smile more.